I do think it's essential to not do life alone, is what we say, to always have someone that you can walk through your different situations with. As a leader, it can be very lonely at the top. I've learned that the hard way.
Welcome back to the Sandy Adams Show, where we talk about business, life, and everything in between. If you are new to the show, I'm so excited you're here. Thank you for taking a few minutes to see what this is all about. Over the past couple of months, I've been rethinking this podcast and what content I can create to empower each of you. I've also been curating a list of leaders, entrepreneurs, and business owners that I know in some capacity and who I feel have incredible, empowering stories to share with you. Today's guest is one of those leaders who I've grown to know over the past 3 years, and I'm so excited to get our conversation started today. Welcome to the show, Dr. Corey L. White.
Thank you so much, Sandy, for having me today.
You are quite welcome, and we know each other because your husband is president of the Memphis Rebounders, Marvin White, and
Yeah.
so I've really just got to know you over the past 3 years and your kids, and just so excited. I saw that your son's going back to Morehouse. He's in his
Oh,
third
I'm
year.
so sad. This is his third year. He left last week and he just sent us a video of his room that he set up.
I know. I can't remember. Like, I remember when he was graduating high school, and I can't believe he's going into his third year.
As
Um,
the time rolled quickly.
It does. And then your daughter is starting her senior year.
Yes, Sandy, do you want me crying at the beginning? Yes, I can't believe my baby is graduating this year.
I know, it's kind of amazing. And she was in Africa just a few weeks ago. And
Yes,
I
yes.
did tell Marvin, though, I said, she's like your retirement plan. Like, she is so good at like getting that video out and just doing all kinds of videos. And she's just got such a great personality.
Thank you. Yeah, she loves traveling. She loves serving other people. She was there on a mission trip and she's amazing with technology. And as you've seen her
She
video.
is. She is, which is kind of like, what's going on now and how the future is going to go. I invited you on today to talk about leadership, and we've been talking about your two children. So let's just dive into, how do you raise two kids to be leaders that they have become over their childhood and into their teens?
Through much prayer, Sandy. I'm so grateful for both of my children. And one of the things that I've learned along the way is just the importance of modeling
Mhm.
what you would like people to pick up, because you've heard, people say people will do, they will do what they see and not
Yes.
necessarily what you say. And that has been what my husband and I both have done over the years. In 20 years, I can't believe I'm saying I have a 20-year-old. But from a very young age, we modeled for them the importance of serving other people and building others up and helping. If we were going down to different churches to help serve meals during the holidays before we started our own, being in different leadership roles in our church, and they were right there with us. And then at work, both of us had management type positions, and so it was just important for them to be exposed to that. And so when they would go through school, we didn't pressure them to select any direction they wanted to
Right.
do, but they naturally, just watching us do for other people, that was their desire. And I think that is what helped them to grow to be leaders. Of course, when you're serving and working with various people, you work with all different types of personalities. And
Right.
so we had those conversations over the years, just reminding them that, don't, number one, don't expect you from other people, accept people for who they are, and work with them to the best of your ability, and try to always leave something positive with that person, even if they're not as positive with you.
Sure. No, I've struggled with that as well. I agree with that. People have asked me how I got, some of the traits and characteristics and things that I've done. And I've talked about how my mom was really, she set that example
Mhm.
without saying it. It was really watching her, just pull up her pants every day and go to work and get it done.
Mhm.
And kids do model that. And so your career has spanned various roles and responsibilities within education.
Yes.
To set the stage for our discussion today, how do you define leadership and why do you believe it's essential?
Leadership to me, again, is just about being able to work with other individuals to move them towards a shared vision and goal, getting people to buy into one common goal. And it's not a straight path all the time. Sometimes it's crooked, but you want to be able to lead people, showing them that you're working alongside them and you're not, what I'm trying to get at is you always want to, as a leader, be the person that's willing to do whatever you're asking others to do. And I just think a leader is a person that's able to bring a variety of people together, again, to accomplish one task or goal.
What kind of led you into education? Was that your undergraduate?
That was my undergraduate degree, not initially. I am not any different than many people and college students trying to find themselves. Initially, if you go back and research or search Corey and my maiden name, I was in the newspaper, won so many scholarships because I was going to be a medical student, Sandy.
Really?
Yes, an anesthesiologist. And I got to college and I was in that biology course and it was kicking my butt. But I think that was more so because I was very social at the time. And so instead of sticking it out, I changed my major a bunch of times, but I always had a desire. At first I was like, well, I do like kids, but let me try something else. I kept
Right.
running from it, but I had an uncle that he was the first person in my family to have a college degree. No one else had gone to college, and he was a teacher. And he taught fifth grade, and I used to go to his classroom and help him set up. And I was around his kids as a little bitty girl, and I remembered that. And
Mhm.
so somewhere in the midst of me trying to figure out, okay, Corey, you need to get out of college, I shifted my major to education. I will say this, that between that time, when I said, okay, I'm not going to do anesthesiology, I said a pediatrician. Well, I went and had an internship one summer at Vanderbilt in Nashville, and I
Right.
was on a children's ward. And I cried and broke
Yeah.
down every
Yeah.
day. I could not
Yeah.
take it seeing children so ill and some of them passing away. So once I came back that summer, I said, I want to be an education major. I love children. My uncle had inspired me as well. And I said, this is what I'm going to do. So probably my junior year of college, that is what inspired me, all of those different experiences to land where I am.
So, what then inspired you to go and get your master's and then eventually your PhD?
I'm so glad to be on the Sandy Adams show. I could be honest. What inspired me to get my master's was money. In the field of education, it's no secret that
Mhm.
teachers aren't doing these amazing things for the money. I'm not, not that it's all about money. Happiness it's a huge thing.
Right.
But I went because in order to get a pay raise, I had to have a master's degree. So I went and focused on curriculum and instruction and was excited. I finished the program in 2 years and then I got my pay boost. And so
Right.
that was that. And so then after teaching a couple of years, I had a principal, she would always say, um, have you thought about going into school administration? And I was
Mm.
like, oh, absolutely not. I want to teach my 25 students for the rest of my years. And, I have 100% control right here. I'm having a great impact. I'm good. So some years passed and she asked me again and I was like, okay, I'll think about it. And at the time there were three other young ladies that I taught with. They were interested in going back to school. And so I had already had a master's degree in curriculum and instruction. And so I broke down against my better judgment and got an administrative licensure, or I focused in
Right.
administration and supervision. And so I completed that piece of it. At the time, as in education, I stopped at the EDS portion, and all that means is I did everything with the exception of writing the dissertation.
Right.
I had two young kids, and I was just like, I just let me stop here. I still had another degree, and I earned another licensure. So I finished that, and I probably was hired as an assistant principal that same year. Again, that was not my
Wow.
plan, and that's a whole nother story in itself. And so I got the job as an assistant principal, and um, I think Colin and Kelly were, I don't know, they were young.
Hmm.
Both of them were under the age of 10, I believe. And then a couple of years passed by, I became a principal, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I enrolled in, no, I know what it was. I decided I wanted to hold the first doctorate degree in my family. I just said,
Right.
1% of people that have this degree.
Yeah.
And I always liked just, striving for more. I never wanted to be in a position where I didn't have something I needed, or something would prevent me from getting any position that I wanted. And so I always thought that, just watching some of my new teachers come in, I was like, oh, some of these programs or classes are not preparing new teachers. And so I said, I
Right.
think I might later in life want to be a college professor. So in my mind, I thought I had to have a doctorate degree to do that. And so I enrolled in school. In that same year, I became a principal. So my first year as a principal, here I am
Wow.
also working on a doctoral degree. And so I guess I just don't believe in keeping things simple in life. So
Um,
that's my journey to that.
do you miss the classroom?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I miss it with all of my heart. I was still able to have those same bonds, on a much larger scale. Many of my parents from my school that I was a principal at, they still get in touch with me. Many of my
Really?
students still contact me. I can't go anywhere without someone saying, "Hey, Miss White, you were my principal," or "Miss White," or of course the ones that I taught, they're inviting me to their weddings, they're sending me birth invitations. I started
Right.
teaching when I was 13 now. I'm just joking, but no, my students, they're grown, and that's what I miss. Just those real close personal relationships I was able to build with my students and my families. And I love seeing the light bulb go off from when they first would walk in that door in August until May, or, me being able to help them with their confidence. So
Right.
and so that's why I teach adults. That fulfills that gap
Yeah.
that I have, because I do miss the classroom.
So it takes me back to the conference tournament like 3 years ago when I was there with you guys in Fort Worth. Erin
Oh,
McLeod, Erin, she was the reporter.
yes,
And
exactly.
what is her last name? She's in California now.
Andy, if you would not have asked me, but
Oh,
I remember Erin. It'll come to me when we're finished with this segment,
that's
but
right.
yes, she was one of my former
I
students.
remember that you were like, "Oh my God, she was one of my students."
As we're in Texas, and she was a broadcaster, and it was
Yes.
so nice to see that, because I clearly remember we would call and ask Erin to do, if it was to introduce
Right.
someone at a program, or if she was leading the Pledge of Allegiance. So it's just nice to see when you pour into people and
Yes.
what they can develop into.
Yes, and I actually follow her now on Instagram because you just kind of pointed her out. And yeah, she's doing great out in California. So let's talk about some of the pivotal moments that you've had in your positions that have kind of influenced your approach to leadership.
Okay. Well, after being a principal, I give God all the glory. I am a Christian woman. I'm not ashamed to hide that. But I was promoted or asked to go to a position at the district office, in which I coached and supervised probably 17 principals in a very large district, from elementary, middle to
Right.
high. And when I was removed from my own building, when you're in one place, you think everybody's doing what you're doing. You just
Yes.
assume everything's great. But sometimes when it was the same thing when I transitioned from the classroom into administration, you know, in my eyes, every teacher in the building is doing what I'm doing. But you find out that that's not the case.
Yes.
And with leadership, it was the same thing. And it wasn't that these weren't good people. I just don't think they had the right support. And so I tell people all the time, you can learn good things and what not to do, I will
Right.
say. We won't say bad things, but you
Right.
can learn something from every situation. And so coupling my observations from working with other leaders and seeing what was going on to some of my own personal experiences to having leaders that were so graceful, so knowledgeable, helpful, supportive, all those wonderful things, to working under leaders that led with fear or just bullying and not supportive. So I promised myself from every experience that I would always be the person to people that I needed at whatever phase in my life or whatever position I was in. And so being a leader, or what helped me to, for who I am or how I lead,
Right.
it was just a plethora of all of those experiences coming together, looking at the good, bad, and ugly, and saying, I will always, I'm not perfect, I mess up
Right.
all the time, but as a leader, I just wanted anybody that I'm working with to know that, hey, I'm walking alongside you, I am not on top of you, we are in this together, and whatever it is, we can work through it.
How do you empower yourself in your leadership roles? Because I think, especially for women, I think that sometimes it's hard. You're in this position, and how do you pour back into yourself? So, how do you empower yourself in your leadership roles?
Much prayer, much peace, prayer. Day, I start with it, I end the day with it, and just sometimes moving away, people, I've seen funny memes on the internet of people, moms and dads or women, just sitting in their car for 15 minutes after getting home. Sometimes I'm driving home, Sandy, for 30 minutes in complete silence,
Right.
and that just helps me to clear my mind. So I've learned the importance of silence. My kids would get in the car, Marvin would get in the car with me. You don't have the radio on? It's like, no, after all of the noise of the day, I
Right.
don't want to hear it. Another thing that I have learned along the way, I put my phone, I use those notifications, the do not
I do
disturb or the
too.
focus
I do too.
settings. I think that's the biggest blessing ever. Because if not, as a leader, as a woman, just, I'm a wife, I'm a
Right.
daughter, I'm a cousin, a sister. You always have people pulling on you, but you have to learn to set boundaries. And so that's one of the things that I have managed to do. I do remove my cell phone. Like if I'm home, my phone may be sitting on a charger in my bedroom, and I've been fussed at by many family members. I've been trying to reach you all day. Call my kids, call Marvin, you know how to get in touch with me. But sometimes you do technology, you have to learn how to check out. Um, Another thing I do, I love to travel. I
Hmm.
absolutely love to travel. So whenever I can, I'm trying to say yes. I try to have something to look forward to a year in advance. And
Right.
so when I know that, I'll put something, a screensaver up on my computer of a beach and sand just to help me focus to know, hey, whatever I'm doing right now, it's just a moment.
Sure.
I have something relaxing to look forward to. I also try to get up at the crack of dawn, the evenings, and it's not good for me, and just walk on my treadmill.
Mhm.
So I don't go outside as much due to the allergies, and where we live, Sandy, it's just it's all
I
kinds of
do.
things
I
there.
do.
I like riding my bike, but I just encourage leaders and people, women in general, just make sure you're doing something for you. It's so easy to get caught up in the mundane things of work and the demands of work. And then you come home and the demands of laundry and
Right.
cooking and cleaning. But so those are just a few of the things I do. And the last thing I will share is I do not bend on my sleep. I go to
Right.
sleep at night. Of course, there are rare times that I have to stay up because we had an event with one of the kids and we're getting in late. But
Right.
for the most part, I need my 7.5, 8 hours of sleep, and I take naps on the weekend. But like I said, for anybody watching, please use your notifications
Right.
on your cell phone, on your computer, shut them down, silence them, even if it's just a couple of hours a day. And so that's how I keep my balance.
No, I agree. For me, because I work alone and I live alone, the thing that I really, and this was probably 3 or 4 years ago, right before COVID started, but I really during COVID I kicked into it was I purposely put it on my calendar at 4 or 5 o'clock, depending on the time of the year. I go outside and walk,
That's right.
and I listen to something that's not related to work.
Yeah.
And, I made myself do that because I needed to, for me, I'm a workaholic too. And it's really easy for me to just keep sitting here and working or go eat and then come back and work at the computer. And so
Mhm.
for me, I realized I needed to have something that made me get out of my environment.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
going outside and walking just kind of forced me to end my day and gave me, like you sitting in the car or just having the quietness. It just allowed me to turn my brain off and turning
Yeah.
on to something else. So yes, that I do believe that's really important. And so is the exercise as well. And just looking forward to something, you know, uh, because, what we do right now does not define who we are
No,
forever.
no.
Um, how do you handle self-doubt, or do you have self-doubt?
Am I a woman, Sandy? Yeah. Absolutely. I've been placed in positions and rooms, and it's just like you go through or I go through the
Mhm.
imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
It's just like, do I really deserve to be here? Should I be in this room with these people? But I just recenter myself and I remind myself that and affirm myself, yes, I deserve to be here. I've worked hard and I have, the history, my results speak for
right,
themselves. So I just constantly, I have sticky notes everywhere on my bathroom mirror of just saying, hey, you are amazing. You will have
right,
a good, just positive affirmations because we need to hear that. And so that's one of the things, even at work. I have a couple of things up on my walls and just anything positive and positive scriptures, anything to just help me to boost myself up because sometimes you're not going to have anybody to
yeah,
reaffirm you. And so that's one of the things. And of course, I connect with other leaders and other women like you to just, for us to remind each other of how amazing we are and the
right,
great things that we're doing. So I also, although I mentor many people, it's important for me to stay surrounded with people that are doing better than me, that are smarter than me, that have more experience than me, because I believe I can learn from everybody. I surround myself with people that have less experience with
right.
me because I can learn something from everybody. So I try to stay surrounded. With self-doubt comes in with a bunch of women that are ready to uplift me.
Mhm.
I tell everybody, yes, I have one birth mother, but I've been fortunate to have probably 7 or 8 women that I call my other mothers. And
Right.
so at any point in time, they're sending me positive scriptures or prayers or, just checking in on me. And that's what helps me when self-doubt tries to creep in, because one of these ladies or somebody somewhere has already told me something contrary to how that negative thought will
Right.
try to come in.
It is interesting. Women, and I've worked with a lot of mid-level professionals. They've had college degrees, masters, PhDs, a lot of engineers when I was living in Houston, and it always amazed me how many experienced professionals, and more so women than men, have so much self-doubt
Yes.
no matter how many credentials they have. And
Mhm.
one thing that always struck me was it was so easy for them to talk negative about themselves.
Mhm.
Everybody, those words just flow out of people, right?
Yeah.
But
Yes.
it's harder to talk positive about ourselves,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it was something that just was very, and I'm just as guilty as everybody else. And it was
Mhm.
just something that really just kind of was I don't it made me, I couldn't even bring words to my brain to even like, get around it. It just was so amazing. And I kept trying to tell everybody it's just as easy to be positive as it is to be negative. So why not choose that? Um,
Absolutely.
and you're right. In women, it just seems to, and I don't know if it's because we talk about it more
Mhm.
than men do. But it is very daunting and just it just makes me kind of like go, wow, it's so many amazing women out there at
Mhm.
all levels. And how do you reinforce that? Let's start with your daughter. How do you reinforce positivity with your
Okay.
daughter and getting her to speak positive about herself and not have, especially for a teenager?
Yes, I'm grateful we have an amazing church home that kind of picks up exactly what Marvin and I are pouring into our daughter. We have a lot of conversations. I tell parents, make sure that you are talking to your girls, to your boy, to all of your
Right.
children. But we have conversations and we're constantly reminded her that she is who she is, who she is perfectly designed and that we love her. And I think her hearing that all the time, and I tell her, you're going to make mistakes, but that's okay, but we can work through anything. I
Right.
tell her how beautiful she is, how intelligent she is, but she's constantly hearing that from us,
Right.
and we're modeling that. It's not just our actions. We're a very affectionate
Right.
household, so she's getting the love and the hugs at home. And so when she goes out into the world, and mean things happen, she remembers that what other people think, say, or do, it's none of her business about her. And so that's one
Yes.
of the things we're constantly instilling, that people will have opinions of you. You can do amazing things. You can go
Right.
sprinkle $1 million on everybody's lawn and somebody is still going to have a
Right.
problem with you. And so we remind her of the importance of, as long as you are doing good by people and your intent, your heart is, just pure towards people, then, and you can sleep at night, then it's okay. But we just try to remind her, do not allow other people's opinions of you to affect and change who you are and how God made you.
So now let's kind of segue into one of your specialties because you're on TikTok. You're also on Instagram, but I see all of your videos. Like, do you record videos every day you're driving?
Sandy, not every day. My beautiful daughter is a huge inspiration, as
She
well as
is.
you.
She is.
And I should. She has set me up and showed me what to do. But going back to that self-doubt, I questioned myself. I'm like, are people really interested in what I have to say? So I don't record every day. And I am guilty of saying I have more videos in my phone than I have released. So I think this conversation, a reminder of, I need to practice what I'm preaching and get over the self-doubt and post some more. And then sometimes life just happens. And I just have not scheduled the time, the
Right.
consistent time, to make sure I'm posting consistently. So I'm going to get better after this. So but in my car, sometimes I have things on my mind. And of course, as I've shared, my daughter, well, I don't know if I shared that with you. Sometimes she would be in the car with me and hear me coaching someone through something, and she's just like,
Right.
Mom, you need to record this. So
Right.
but
Kelly should like be our producer, everybody's producer.
she
Um,
really
but I'm just as guilty of that too. I'll record something and I think we are all very self-critical
hmm
of that. And I'll look at it and say, oh, that's probably not the best. And
yeah.
what I have learned is I just go ahead and do it because and I try to be very consistent, but there are some weeks where I'm just tired and I'm just overwhelmed with everything and I'm just like I don't have anything to say. But what I have come to realize is whether you realize it or not, there are people out there that listen to you.
hmm
They may
hmm
not say anything, they may not click like, but I'm reminded of that every few months. Someone that I've worked with before, or maybe I don't know, they'll send me a message and they'll say, I don't ever comment on your stuff, but I listened to it. And what you said today, I really needed to hear.
You're absolutely correct.
And so, what I say is to everybody is put it out there because you don't know who's listening. And you
Mhm.
can't pick and choose what day that somebody might listen. You just have to speak it.
Yes.
And I do see you on TikTok, obviously, because I follow you and you show up every day in my feed, but I do. And I want to, what got you into the mentoring aspect more so than just your job?
One of the things I've always loved helping people or young women, men have gravitated towards me in at every phase of my life. It's one of those things is my husband and I will laugh. It's like you can be in a room, Corey, and somebody's going to pick you out to be the leader,
But
even if
that's
it's
good. That's good. It says that your essence is getting out there and reaching
I don't
people.
know, Sandy. Sometimes I just want to tuck in a corner and be okay. So, just even as a teacher, I mentored new teachers coming in. I was a second or third year teacher. And I know the question was specifically outside of my
That's
career,
okay. That's okay.
but even, I would develop relationships with people in my job. And although a year would pass, we would go to different schools and they would still latch on to me even after
Right.
we separated and no longer working together. And so I found myself still mentoring and coaching people that I was not affiliated with anymore on a in a official work setting. And so just over the years, I continue when people were watching my trajectory of things that I was doing, even from enrolling into my, different educational programs to moving from different jobs, they would just randomly ask me questions and moms coming up to me, I see you have a 3 and a 6-year-old. How do you, balance your life? And so I don't know how to tell people no. I have gotten better. But so that's one thing as to how I ended up mentoring and coaching individuals. I have moms right now too that I'm supporting. We go have breakfast twice a month that I'm just talking about, raising your kids and that
Right.
transition from high school to college. How do you do that? Or how did you do
Right.
that? So it's messy, but I guess I'm an open book. And so
Right.
people tend to gravitate because I don't believe in what's the young people's term now, gatekeeping or
Oh,
hiding.
yes. 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 Yes.
I'm transparent and it comes from a good place. I enjoy seeing others grow and identifying their potential. It's rewarding for me. I'm a background type of girl. I don't need to be in the forefront. I like to see, for people that will listen, I don't know it all, but to
Right.
see, anything that I've advised them of and to see their dreams come true, it's rewarding.
How important do you think mentorship is for these new teachers or just women in general?
I think it's essential, Sandy. I know I didn't have an official mentor when
I
I
didn't
first
either.
started, and that wasn't something that the district was doing 20 plus years ago, almost 30 years ago. And so I just learned I've always been a very observant person. I'm not going
Right.
to be the loudest person in the room. I'm not going to be the person that's talking the most, but I will be the person that's soaking in everything. And so I went and sought after some teachers or people that I
Mhm.
thought could be a help to me. And so when I realized, I went from thinking that I'm here on my own, I don't have anybody else that has gone through this with me, nobody can relate, that self-doubt. But
Right.
when you have somebody that's there to mentor you, you can call on to, you can vent to, they're giving you solutions. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
this is amazing. And so I had a core group of people that one person, she had only been doing what I was doing for 1 year more than me, but it's just that collaboration. I was like, this is really powerful. And I realized the importance of that. So although I think as women, we just need somebody that we know that we're not alone in doing what we are doing. And if you have a mentor, of course, I know sometimes women worry about people not
Right.
being confidentiality. And so I tell people, yes, I strongly support mentors and
Right.
coaching, but you want to find the right fit and the right person. And because, it's good and bad people in every profession, wherever you
Sure.
go. But I do think it's essential to not do life alone, is what we say, to always have someone that you can walk through your different situations with. As a leader, it can be very lonely at the top.
It
Um,
can.
I've learned that the hard way. But again, you just have to find, even if it's just one person. And so that's what has led me into doing what I do to help other women, because you may be in a situation where you don't trust anybody in your organization. And so here I am offering just an ear and being a neutral person. So I advise, again, leaders, women, find somebody, a trusted confidant that you can just share some ideas and someone to encourage you. For so many days and times, Sandy, we're always filling everybody else's cup
Right.
up. Well, you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to have somebody that's also pouring into you.
I think, and I've used this example before, and it's kind of like that. I talk about being on an airplane and they
Mhm.
tell you to put your oxygen mask on first
Yeah.
before you give it to somebody else. And I said that to somebody one day, and he just kind of looked at me and he's like, I don't understand. And I tell him, I'm like, you give so much of yourself,
Yes.
but if you don't put into yourself first,
Mhm.
you don't have anything. And I think that's relevant to just women in general,
Yeah.
mothers, friends, sisters, wives. I think that's very true of that. For new teachers starting out, but what would be three valuable tips that you would give a new teacher starting out?
New teacher starting out, I would say just give yourself grace is number one. You want to understand that you are learning. This is new for you, and you're going to make mistakes, and everything is not going to go how you plan. That's the beauty of education. No 2 days are alike. Those students and the parents 100% control your day. And
Right.
so it has nothing to do with you. But no, in all due seriousness, it's just the importance of reminding yourself to give yourself some grace. The second thing I would tell new teachers is to stay away from the comparison.
Right.
What am I trying to say? Don't compare yourself to
That's
others.
right.
Don't fall into that trap. You will go through the building, especially new teachers that are setting up rooms now. The fire marshal was, they were like, oh, back in my day, some of these rooms look like they're straight off of HGTV. But I tell teachers, you go in there and just make sure you are able to build relationships with your students, that you understand the curriculum that you will be teaching, and you go from there. Your room, you have many more years to go. In one school year, it's 180 days. Your room will be as beautiful as you like or as simple as you like, but try not to fall into that trap of comparing yourself to other teachers. Um, the last thing, or the third thing, there's so many things I would share with new teachers, but the third thing is I would tell new teachers, make sure you do more observing than
Mm,
anything your first year there. As people say in the business world, there's office politics or there's school politics as
there
well.
is, yes.
And so to keep your own sanity, just observe, stay out of the negativity. Just because it's one teacher's experience with something, or it doesn't mean that that's yours. And sometimes when you're absorbing all this negative talk, it gets into your brain and you start having those same thoughts. So those are three of the main tips, but I know you asked me for three, but don't get stuck in the trap of taking things home every day. You got to
Oh,
have
that's a great
boundaries.
one. That's a great one.
I tell everybody that your day would never end. You're never going to finish. You will always have more to do. But I tell teachers, it'll be there waiting on you tomorrow. I
Right.
promise. And if you don't send a paper home, you just send an email to the parents and say, hey, I'll get it graded another time. But
Right.
I encourage new teachers, because how you start off is how you're going to end, and you're going to burn yourself out. So if you can set aside 1 or 2 days a week, preferably one, where you're working later at school, that would be best. But don't get into the trap of bringing things home every day.
You
And
know,
that affects you.
and I think that's a great tip for just anyone that works, because it's really easy to take your work home because you want to get ahead, or keep working and stay late every night, and then you're sacrificing,
Mhm.
there's no work life balance there at all.
And you can't get that time back with your family and
That's
friends.
right.
Yes.
You have a remarkable ability. You've talked about this, to see and nurture the potential in others. can you share, like, what are some ways that you identify, or how do you see certain teachers or people in general, and how do you see their unique strengths and help build those or help pull those out of people that maybe are not aware of those?
You have to be present. That's number one. As a leader, sometimes you can get caught up in the demands of your job and you find yourself behind a closed door trying to meet certain deadlines. But I tell people as leaders, and your goal is to develop other people, you got to be out amongst people. And so in every position that I've been in, I make sure that I get to know my staff members, and more than just that they're a third grade teacher or they're a paraprofessional in the building. I like to know, as much as they would like to tell me, but I'm very personable. I'm going to share about my family, my kids, my husband, and I ask them about theirs. My team right now, we know all of each other's kids' names, wives' names, husbands' names, grandkids. What are your goals? What are your aspirations? And so I've done that over the years. And so I would go in if somebody told me they had a desire to be an instructional coach. Well, okay, let's talk about some things of how you can work towards that. Or I would try to pull them in on various committees so they could get that experience. I would take people that said they wanted to be principals. Some of my peers would look at me like I was crazy because I'm bringing first and second year teachers with me. They said they wanted to be principals one day. I would bring them to principals meetings with me so they could sit and observe. Some people, like I said, you have to be around them. If I saw a teacher with amazing classroom management or someone that had amazing leadership skills to be able to take their entire team and organize, whatever it is, some type of program. And so I would monitor that and say, hey, Mr. So-and-so, you did a really good job on this. Have you thought about XYZ? And sometimes, people, they're like, oh, same as I did many years ago. No, I don't want to do that. And so I would just, with their permission, put them in positions to show them, look what you can do, or look what you did. I've had several teacher assistants to come in where they were so amazing with the students. I'm like, Miss So-and-so, have you thought about going back to school and getting your license to become a full-time teacher? I had 7 individuals to do that. They came in under my leadership. And so I try to, as you said, nurture people and give them a safe place to know that you can make mistakes. It's not perfect, but I'm going to help you get to wherever you want to be. And just reminding them, I like to speak on facts and not fiction, as I said. And so because I observed people so many times, I would go back and say, hey, do you remember when you did this? Or do you remember how you de-escalated this conversation with this parent and, no administrator was needed? This is why I think you would be, great at this. And they're like, oh, you remember that? You saw that? Absolutely. So I think in order for you to be able to mentor and other people, you got to show a genuine interest in people and follow up. Don't just be a mouthpiece, but if you say you're going to do something or provide some type of support, make sure you do so. And people will hang the moon for you, as one of my former leaders used to say, if you truly show an interest and you care.
It is interesting. If we go back to that conversation about we talk negative about ourselves more than we talk positive. We also don't see our strengths. We
Mm-hmm.
don't believe that we have those strengths. And so I do think it's important for people in leadership positions, um, for everybody in their team, people they work around, to like you said, to look around, be conscious, pay attention, observe, and
Yeah.
then support people, because
Mm-hmm.
it is hard. If you go back to that saying about you can't see the forest for the trees, people can't necessarily see what they're doing every day. They don't necessarily, and especially if they're not really confident about themselves.
Right.
And as
Right.
women, especially, it's hard to see what they're doing well. And I think that, having somebody that's not a relative necessarily
Yes.
also kind of adds, a little bit of credibility to that as well, and help them see that. Um, what are some of the effective ways to recognize leadership in others on your teams and in without in other organizations that you've been a part of?
Recognizing meaning just acknowledging their
Yes.
strengths or I was always good at, I believe in if something comes to your head after you filtered it, make sure
Yes.
it comes out. Especially if it's positive. So many times we will see people doing amazing things and we walk right by and don't share the compliment. So I think it's important for people to hear the positive. And in addition to recognizing leadership, you want to have intentional scheduled conversations with people. I had a staff of over 120 people. And so, of course, I couldn't talk to everybody every day and
Right.
plan, but I made it make sure that you speak with people and you sit down with them and listen, see what they want because they may not be. I've had people tell me they want to do, be a superintendent one day, but right now they can't even manage, 20 kindergarten students. And so you listen and you don't ever kill anybody's dream. That's one of the things I try to remind people. And so you just make sure you are willing to work with people and guide them to whatever their strength may be. And sometimes they're like, yeah, but you have to create that environment where it's comfortable for you to provide constructive criticism. So making sure you're providing honest feedback to individuals, I think that helps. Sandy, I just had a brain lapse. Tell me again, what am I? You said three, three ways.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
I'll edit this part out. No, no, no.
Thank
I get those as well. And now I've had a brain lapse. Okay.
you.
Um, okay, where was I? Okay. Um, okay. So what do you believe are the most crucial leadership skills that educators and students need to develop today?
Oh, let's see. I think that you have to be able to have collaborative relationships in the field of education because if you don't have that ability to collaborate, I'm not sure how you can be successful. And people, let me share this. You don't have to like people to be able to
Right.
collaborate with
That's
them.
exactly right.
Because I know some people will say, I don't want to collaborate. I don't, it has nothing to do with, when you're on a job and being professional in education, you must be
That's
able
right.
to collaborate. I think in education, you need to have the ability to be solution driven or oriented. You're going to have problems. Problems are there. You don't have to be a part of the problem. You don't have to create the problem. You walk
Right.
into some problems, whether it's students, not being on grade level, or if you're a school administrator, your building is not fully staffed at the beginning of the year. I think it's important for you to have some type of critical thinking skills that will help you to problem solve and to find out of the box solutions. So that's another thing I think about as an educator. Let me think of something else. With technology and how the landscape is changing so quickly, I know seasoned educators like myself, sometimes we can be a little timid about jumping in and worried about students knowing more than we do. And that's okay. That's
Right.
quite okay. But I think it's important to have the desire and you gain more skills and confidence through attending professional development.
Sure.
I tell people that you can never stop learning as an educator. So you definitely want to be able to communicate, collaborate, and make sure that you're a problem solver. I think those are a couple of things that can help
Sure.
you be successful.
So let's talk about women in general, and that will kind of end our conversation here. Um, how can women in general be better leaders in today's environment with everything going on? What are the ways for young women to be better leaders?
I just think being excellent in doing whatever you are currently. I would not have been considered for the positions that I've gone through had I not been an excellent teacher.
Right.
I was an excellent teacher first. My test scores were amazing. My classroom management was great. I had amazing relationships with my parents. I knew how to communicate, collaborate, all of those wonderful things as a teacher. So when I moved into an administrative position, that flowed naturally for me. I had to learn some other types of skills, and so I mastered that. So as a woman, I just encourage you to be excellent in what you are, whatever it is, be the best at it. Don't be afraid to express your interest or let people know what your goals are in life. And I think as a woman, you've got to remember balance and just remembering to I do a presentation called check your baggage at the door. As women, we carry a lot
Right.
on us. We're thinking about, if your cat has vomited before you came to work, or your basement flooded, your kids forgot to get you to sign something in the morning times. I think when you walk into any career that you're in, any job, you've got to be able to leave that at the door. And I'm not trying to be sexist or whatever, but
Right.
we're focusing on women. But as women, we can be hormonal and
Yes.
emotional creatures. And so I think the importance of what we talked about earlier, Sandy, just find exercising and getting that vitamin D.
Right.
I don't go outside early in the mornings. Like I said, my allergies and everything's blooming at that time. But I walk around the building at work for 10 minutes just to get a break from my day, to help me balance my
Sure.
emotions and to check myself. So just as a woman, those are just some of the things in general that I think can help you to be a better leader. Supportive networks, that's one thing I jotted down in my notes. Something practical. Make sure you connect with other women that are not like you. It's
Yes.
no fun to have everybody in your circle that thinks the same way you do, that looks the same way you do, that does the same thing that you do. Have women in leadership roles that are, in all types of organizations or environments. So you can learn something from them.
Right.
One of my amazing friends slash mentors that Sandy, you and I both know, she owns a trucking company and does all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
So I put, pull on her brain all the time. It has nothing to do with education, but she's taught me so much. So I just encourage you to build a network of women that you admire or look up to. Even something as simple as you can go on YouTube. Some
Yeah.
of my best friends that they have no idea that they're my best friends. They're on social media. So just find someone that you can connect with. And of course, always seek growth opportunities any type of way. And you don't have to wait on a job. That's one of the things. I had a conversation with one of my clients. Just because your current bosses or leaders may not be asking you to do things or go places, don't wait on them. You don't have to wait for somebody to, you can find your own professional
Yes.
development opportunities or your own networks. You don't have to have permission from anybody to do amazing things. And so that's what I would leave with you today, as leaders, as women, to just remember. And also stay out your head. You can't be pitiful and powerful at the same time. That is
I
what
love that. You can't be
Joyce,
pitiful and
uh,
powerful at the same time. I love that.
Joyce Meyer says that all the time. So just remember that. And I think that's all I can share.
I love the part about having people in your network that are so much different.
Yeah.
Um, and that's very true. And I was just talking to somebody the other day about that because, we learn from differences.
Mhm.
And, I've never been one of these people that wants to hear the same old thing. I want to play devil's advocate, or I want to hear the other perspective. And maybe that's just the way my brain works, but that's one thing I think I was just telling somebody the other day about that. That's one thing I miss about working by myself. I miss
Mhm.
the collaboration. I miss the bouncing ideas off people. I miss getting different perspectives,
Yes.
during the day. I can
Mhm.
only give myself one perspective. Um, and I miss that. And I was very fortunate growing up. My mom loved to learn
Mhm.
and we didn't have a lot of money, and she had grown up really poor, but she just loved going places and learning about other cultures, and I developed that from her, and I still like you know I can learn stuff from whoever, male or female, all walks of life, everything. And I love that perspective, definitely, on that. And I think for women, it's really important to not let one perspective
Yeah.
control your mindset. because that's also really easy. Corey, thank you so much for being on the show today. Where can people find you and connect with you online? Because I know you have a consulting business, and I
Yes,
know you're a coach. So where can people find you and connect with you?
they can go to my website at Corey, Korrie, White, WHITE.com, CoreyWhite.com. Also, my social media handles are at Dr. Corey White on Instagram, TikTok, and my YouTube channel that I'm just now building. Thanks to you, Sandy, for motivation.
Oh,
So,
really? Oh, okay. I feel honored.
yeah.
Um, um, and I'll put all of that stuff, I'll put all of those links into the show notes so everybody can see that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Um, Thank you all for joining us today on the Sandy Adams Show. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep creating, and keep making a difference.